Katharine Hepburn. Katharine soared to stardom in the early to mid-20th century, breaking the mold of what a female star was expected to represent. She shattered polite expectations by wearing trousers and speaking her mind, a boldness that baffled and impressed audiences in equal measure. Many believed Hollywood would eventually tame her outspoken nature, yet her defiance only intensified. One hidden detail involves her willingness to return a film contract instead of conforming to a watered-down studio image, an audacious move that set her apart from other performers of the age. Another eye-opening point lies in her parents' progressive upbringing, which taught her to question authority and reject roles that confined her potential. Some critics openly worried that her rejection of motherhood and traditional marriage would tarnish her standing, predicting her fame might dim. Yet, Katharine saw freedom as the only path to true fulfillment, placing an unshakable faith in her personal convictions and creative passions. She took on daring roles, matching wit with venerable leading men, and influenced an entire generation of actresses to trust in their own decisions. This lifelong stance of unrepentant independence and choice shaped her legend, quietly offering a clue about the next star who also chose to remain childless. Greta Garbo. Greta dazzled film aficionados in the 1920s and beyond, wielding an almost mystical presence that drew eyes to every subtle shift in her expression. She intentionally kept Hollywood at arm's length, a move that created a swirl of rumors around her personal life. One overlooked fact reveals that, in her youth, she quietly studied lighting and set design to ensure her on-screen image projected the haunting aura she desired. Another revelation emerges in her periodic retreats from public view, during which she would step away from relentless industry demands, refusing to sacrifice her peace for film contracts. Some insisted her solitude was merely a ruse to stoke fan curiosity, yet Greta's private letters paint a picture of a woman fueled by introspection. She sidestepped motherhood altogether, even as studio bosses tried to entice her with the promise of greater fame if she embraced a traditionally feminine role off-screen. Critics doubted her ability to hold the public's devotion without bearing children, but her captivating performances and aura of secrecy only heightened her status. This quiet determination to live on her own terms, free from outside expectations, echoes in the life of another formidable performer who also declined the path of parenthood. Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara rose to prominence in the 1930s with a magnetic blend of toughness and sensitivity that defied the era's limited view of female leads. She embraced characters who operated on their own rules, from cunning anti-heroines to everyday women pushed to the brink. One lesser-known truth stems from her habit of studying behind-the-scenes processes, camera angles, lighting setups, even script rewrites, giving her an edge when accepting or rejecting parts. Another striking testament to Barbara's independence lies in her candid statements dismissing the notion that every woman is suited for motherhood, a perspective that rattled some segments of the press. They questioned whether her unwavering focus on career reflected a fear of domestic life. Yet Barbara brushed off such gossips, stating that she sought a deeper fulfillment through storytelling. She earned a reputation for championing complex and morally ambiguous roles, preferring films that challenged the audience's comfort zone. Her forthright attitude toward filmmakers, combined with her willingness to negotiate her own contracts, paved new ground for actresses who followed. This relentless drive to dictate her own life stands as an unmistakable hallmark of her legacy, and it resonates in another performer who also turned her back on convention. Helen Mirren. Helen appeared on the world stage decades after the silent era, yet she carried a similarly rebellious spirit that disarmed those who tried to pigeonhole her. She rocketed to global acclaim by the late 20th century, balancing stage triumphs with commanding film roles. One revelation about Helen involves her outspoken view that gender norms had long suppressed female potential, a stance that led to heated debates among acting traditionalists. Another, less publicized insight is her method of researching historical figures, poring over diaries and letters to capture the essence of queens and leaders she would portray. Despite the spotlight's glare, Helen decided against having children, explaining that her energies were best channeled toward acting techniques and personal development. Many industry voices predicted she would relinquish that stance, yet she remained adamant, seeing no contradiction between artistic success and a childless life. Her enduring popularity and critical praise prove that her perspective did not hinder her legacy. Instead, it brought an added air of courage to her persona, making her an icon for those who favor self-determination over obligation. That rich spirit of self-possession links Helen to another trailblazer who similarly embraced a life free from parenthood. Lillian Gish. Lillian stood at the very dawn of cinematic storytelling, effectively molding the foundations of the silent era with her expressive eyes and meticulously crafted gestures. She carved out that delicate balance between innocence and resilience, ensuring each role embodied a full emotional spectrum. One fascinating detail points to her insistence on rehearsing every scene extensively, a commitment that guided directors to capture raw, intimate moments not commonly seen in early film. Another aspect hidden from some accounts is her relentless push for better working conditions for actresses, lobbying off-screen for fair wages and safer film sets. Though professional peers once speculated she would find her way into motherhood, Lillian chose to invest her energies in nurturing cinematic artistry, viewing the silver screen as her lifelong commitment. Her single-minded passion helped transform early motion pictures from spectacle into an art form of nuanced storytelling, a shift that shaped generations of filmmakers. In time, Lillian's dedication to preserving archival footage, coupled with her enduring refusal to comply with societal expectations, solidified her place as an unyielding pioneer. Her example endures as a reminder that a refusal to follow conventional scripts can leave a lasting impact on the creative world. Franklin Pangborn. Franklin held court in an era when comedic timing was everything, often portraying fastidious characters whose polished manners concealed a subtle mischief. He dominated screens throughout the 1930s and 40s, mastering the art of the witty remark that left audiences starstruck by his impeccable delivery. Less publicized is that he honed his comedic style by observing real-life social gatherings, making mental notes of how people behaved under pressure. Equally compelling is his behind-the-scenes persona. Franklin, by many accounts, was generous to fellow actors, offering tips for comedic beats and sharing insights on physicality, yet seldom spoke of personal ambitions beyond the craft. He never ventured down the path of raising children, which was a point of intrigue for fans who expected every Hollywood figure to eventually embrace a traditional home life. Some whispered that this choice gave him more freedom to perfect his comedic brand, free from the distractions of paternal obligations. Others speculated that his refined manners and precise style were reflections of a performer who poured all emotion into his routines, leaving little room for what society deemed essential. He ended up a staple in timeless classics, but there was another talent whose childlessness also fascinated longtime admirers. Agnes Moorehead. Agnes burst into the spotlight as a commanding presence in the early 20th century, capturing audiences with her dynamic voice and a gaze that hinted at hidden depths. She soared to fame through stage work and radio drama, earning recognition that soon led to roles in classic films, demanding a riveting, nuanced portrayal. One detail that catches many off guard is her unswerving devotion to spirituality, which she drew upon when taking on psychologically complex characters. Another truly astonishing aspect is her versatility in the Mercury Theater, working alongside forward-thinking minds who pulled stories from the darkest corners of the human experience. Agnes embraced these intense roles without reservation, often citing that her personal life, completely free of children, granted her the latitude to delve deeply into each script. Critics sometimes wondered if her unchanging status away from parenthood contributed to her intense on-screen focus, enabling her to channel every ounce of energy into layered performances. She commanded the screen and left audiences in awe of her transitions from gentle confidant to fierce antagonist with the blink of an eye. Such was her impact that fellow stars learned to anticipate a sharp intelligence whenever Agnes spoke. That same spark of self-possession soon manifested in another actor who likewise declined the notion of parenthood. Myrna Loy. Myrna reigned as a radiant symbol of sophistication during the mid-20th century, famously weaving wry humor into her films and swiftly becoming one of Hollywood's most desired leading ladies. Despite her widespread appeal, she shunned the role of mother that many believed was an inevitable chapter for such a celebrated star. One rarely discussed tidbit traces back to her philanthropic endeavors, particularly her vigorous campaigning for civil rights in a time when many celebrities kept such views quiet. Another revelation emerges in her devotion to the craft itself. Myrna, known as the Queen of Hollywood during the 1930s, took an almost obsessive interest in script quality and insisted on clarity of dialogue that could transform lighthearted banter into magnetic cinema gold. She navigated multiple marriages, yet each time bypassed the notion of raising children, explaining in interviews that she aspired to champion causes beyond the domestic sphere. Observers sometimes attributed her refusal to settle down as an extension of her sharp intelligence and timeless allure, both of which propelled her through an era when studios held tight control over their talent. She poured her energy into humanitarian work when not lighting up the screen, an approach shared by another remarkable figure who likewise chose a life free of kids. Edna May Oliver. Edna May had a presence that captured attention before she even said a word, driven by a sharp wit and that distinctive face so many audiences came to love. She made her mark between the 1920s and 30s, carving out territory as the spirited, quick-tongued woman who rarely missed a comedic opportunity. One lesser-known notion is that Edna May, behind her humorous veneer, was deeply invested in the study of comedic theory, dissecting scripts line by line to understand precisely why a scene provokes laughter. Equally stunning is the rumor that she frequently offered script feedback to up-and-coming actors, guiding them toward breathing comedic life into their roles. She left no time for parenthood, insisting that her energy was best used for her craft. Some say she modeled her larger-than-life comedic style on everyday social gatherings, translating small quirks into theatrical gestures that kept audiences glued to her every move. While her boldly self-assured screen presence made her a go-to comedic star, Edna May never backed away from roles that required real emotional depth when the script demanded it. Her belief that unwavering focus triumphs over all else is a prevailing notion that echoes in another towering figure who also never welcomed children. Monty Woolley. Monty commanded attention through his razor-edged wit and the famously arched eyebrow that punctuated many memorable performances. He spent the 1930s and 40s polishing his reputation as a refined comedic star, delivering lines in a booming voice that hinted at a life of lavish experiences. One quality that stuns those who dig deeper is his academic pedigree. Monty taught at Yale University, crossing paths with notable talents, quietly showcasing an intellect beneath his trademark cynicism. Equally remarkable is how he balanced sense of humor with a sophisticated bearing, leading studios to book him for roles requiring an authoritative yet endearing presence. He never became a father, which some friends believed gave him the flexibility to wander between stage, screen, and radio without limits. Contrary to the public image of a perpetually urbane gentleman, Monty revealed a caring streak to colleagues, offering them support during rehearsals and engaging in genuinely collaborative exchanges. Audiences embraced him as the bristly voice of reason who might surprise you with an unexpected dose of compassion. Even now, film historians look back and see an artist who chased his own standards, indifferent to conventional pressures. He left an impression that resonates beyond his era, while another dimension beckons in the next hidden chronicle. Alice Brady. Alice emerged in the early 20th century amidst the theater lights of Broadway, quickly carving a path into silent films and then talkies with a flair many found irresistible. She radiated a versatility rarely seen at the time, slipping effortlessly between comedic roles and heartfelt dramas that hinted at deeper layers of human emotion. A hidden piece of her trajectory is how she honed her craft under the discerning eye of her theatrical father, who recognized her remarkable aptitude early on and fostered her rise. Another insight comes from her noteworthy success at capturing prestigious accolades. Alice secured an Academy Award for her role in a major film from the late 1930s, a testimony to her magnetic screen presence. Despite her widespread acclaim, she did not embrace the role of motherhood, an unconventional choice many found surprising given her public popularity. Some speculated she simply devoted all her energy to perfecting her performances, preferring a world of rehearsals, set design, and premiere nights over domestic concerns. Her lasting impression in cinematic history echoes the ambition and fierce dedication she channeled into every production, ensuring her name endures among classic film enthusiasts. This spirit of steadfast independence emerges yet again in another entertainer who also stayed childless. Eric Blore. Eric made a memorable mark as the gentleman of refined comedy, celebrated for his crafty turns in a string of iconic musicals during the 1930s. His distinctive mannerisms and impeccable timing drew the spotlight whenever he shared a scene with legendary dancers and singers, showcasing a skillful comedic style that balanced wit with subtle physical gestures. A less publicized element of Eric's career is his journey from a humble insurance job in England to the bright glare of Hollywood lamps, demonstrating a determination to seize every opportunity for laughter. Another unexpected dimension surfaces in the private diaries he kept, which mentioned his fascination with comedic theories used in vaudeville, an influence that seeped into his polished film persona. Through multiple stage and screen transitions, he formed a loyal fan base who admired how he could brighten a film just by arching an eyebrow. The fact that Eric never became a father rarely surfaced in interviews, but some guessed this choice afforded him the freedom to roam the industry without constraint. He embodied a performer who existed purely to spread amusement, untethered from what society might label as obligatory family roles. Another trailblazer would continue this legacy of remaining childless, though in a vastly different style. May Robson. May commanded attention in the silent era with a robust air of authority, cleverly rebuking the notion that only glamorous ingenues could prosper in front of the camera. Her filmography through the 1920s and 30s featured characters who spoke their minds, a reflection of the real May, who had already lived a whirlwind life before stepping into fame. One eye-opening facet of her background involves her early years in Australia, where she gained stage experience that would later shape her bold screen presence. Equally absorbing is how she adapted to the transition from silent film to talkies without missing a beat, proving that her vivid voice could match her dynamic expressions. May maintained her independence from traditional expectations, never welcoming children into her life, though many viewers guessed she possessed a maternal quality thanks to her portrayals of feisty maternal figures. Insiders of the industry remarked that she relished shaping her roles, often persuading directors to add eccentric touches that brought characters delightfully to life. Her personal style, unencumbered by parenthood, allowed her to focus on broadening her range and consistently surprise audiences. She shattered age-related barriers, illustrating that star power could bloom from experience, a lesson shared by another luminary, who also chose a child-free path. George Sanders. George exuded a suave confidence that set him apart from other leading men in the 1940s. That velvety voice and sharp-edged wit molded his image into someone both remarkable and vaguely untouchable, a facade that made him perfect for clever anti-heroes or figures of refined villainy. One astonishing fact emerges from his early career switch. George initially dreamt of a quiet business life, but discovered a flair for performance that demanded to be pursued. Another hidden layer materializes in his love of music, having recorded songs during his off hours from filming, suggesting a creative hunger beyond his sarcastic on-screen persona. He navigated multiple high-profile marriages across decades, yet remained resolutely without children. A decision that piqued public curiosity as to what truly fueled his private world. Close associates confided that his gentle side rarely appeared in tabloids, leading to endless speculation about the man behind the polished exterior. Rather than living with regrets about conventional family life, George cultivated a sophisticated aloofness that defined his brand of star appeal. It left a legacy of complex characters that keep film historians returning to parse every subtle nuance. Even so, his path of avoiding parenthood also emerged in the journey of another respected star. Gladys Cooper. Gladys ruled the stage and then graced the silver screen, bringing an aristocratic magnetism to productions from the 1910s through subsequent decades. She captured roles that demanded composure and emotional subtlety, and her calm veneer often gave way to startling outbursts of passion when the story called for it. One intriguing detail centered on her meticulous study of posture and movement, an approach she believed elevated acting from mere performance to near balletic artistry. Another eye-opener revolves around her selective method of choosing scripts, poring over them for intellectual depth before agreeing to appear, a rarity in a fast-paced studio system. She navigated personal relationships that fascinated the press, and though some assumed Gladys would devote herself to motherhood at some stage, this destiny never materialized in her life. Colleagues remarked that her focus shone brightest when she immersed herself in rehearsals, reveling in the chance to dissect character motivations until each line carried a blade of truth. The underlying story suggests that her serene aura was not simply inherited, but carefully perfected, a distinguishing mark that made audiences lean forward in their seats. She stayed free of familial obligations, forging a blueprint of single-minded dedication that passes like a coded message to future generations. Basil Rathbone. Basil commanded the stage and screen with an elegant authority, emerging in the early 20th century as a master of swashbuckling swordplay and refined dramatic roles. He became synonymous with cunning detectives and erudite villains, feeding an audience enchanted by the thrilling contrast of his poised demeanor and the darkness lurking in his characters. One little discussed element of Basil's life revolves around his wartime bravery, serving in the First World War with such distinction that he earned a significant honor, although he rarely referenced it in Hollywood circles. Another quietly astonishing insight surfaces from his dedication to theater. Basil would devote endless nights to rehearsals, meticulously honing a single line of dialogue until he believed it resonated with unbreakable authenticity. He never shifted into fatherhood, a path that might have altered his relentless focus on artistry. Perhaps, in his mind, domestic obligations would have dulled the edge that made his portrayals so mesmerizing. Industry insiders sometimes whispered that his sharp features and keen intelligence left him typecast as the intellectual antagonist. Yet Basil found a certain thrill in confounding those expectations with each new performance. Decades after his peak, he remains the embodiment of a polished intensity that set the era on fire. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our newest videos. Thanks for watching.